You know what makes a good movie? Good performances. Also a good screenplay. Good direction, good cinematography, editing helps. If it's a comic book movie, good visual effects. Good sound is also really nice. Lighting is all good for everything. But hey, a good score. A good score also can make a good movie. Or it can make a bad movie just sound nice because the score is nice. But yeah, scores. I love me some good movie scores. But I already did a top 10 of my favorite movie scores. But you know what also I like? Underrated scores. Scores that just don't get enough love. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. Hey everyone, welcome to the top 10 list, and welcome to my top 10 favorite underrated movie scores of all time. Yes, this is what I think, in my opinion, are scores, film scores that are just so underrated, and scores people don't talk enough about. Because, you know, anytime you do like a favorite scores, like I did a whole video like years ago of my top 10 favorite scores, and I don't consider, well, one of them, but out of all of them, I don't consider any of them underrated, except for one of them. They're all very, like, you know, very big name scores, and they're probably most people's favorites. Like the Jurassic Park, the in the Star Wars, and of course, like Lord of the Rings, Lion King, the Psycho, like those are all the big name scores, and that's like most people's favorite scores, but there are scores out there that are just so good, so brilliant, so euphoric, so compelling, so riveting. No one talks about them though. And I'm here to celebrate those scores by giving my top 10 most underrated film scores in my opinion. So yeah, this is just my opinion again, and I'm not going to do honorable mentions. I just think these 10 scores, people just need to go listen to them. Go on YouTube right now as I'm naming these all off. Go on YouTube, listen to these scores, and just see how compelling these scores are. They are so good, and most people just need to listen to them. So yeah, here we go. Here's my top 10 most underrated movie scores of all time, in my opinion. Coming in number 10 is the Unbreakable score, composed by James Newton Howard. James Newton Howard is a great film composer. He's definitely like in my like top 10, top 15 favorite film composers, and he's so good. He scores like all of Shyamalan's movies. I don't think he's all of them, but like he scored The Sixth Sense and stuff. And The Sixth Sense is a great score, but the Unbreakable score is so good. That bum, 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 bum. I can't do the scores. Like I'm terrible at sounds, but he does an amazing job with the score. And like there's a couple scores I like in the movie. Like I love the scene when Bruce Willis gets out of the pool, but my favorite score is the theme to Unbreakable, when Bruce Willis is in the train station and he's like reading all the people when he's touching them and stuff. An amazing score. The score is so brilliant and so amazing that when I heard it at the end of Split, I just like got goosebumps because I knew like that's the Unbreakable score. Oh my god. It's just such a great score. Like, I wish this score was nominated and even won. I wish more people talked about this score. More people talk about the Sixth Sense score. People should be talking about this. This should be a loved score. This should be like one of the best scores on most people's lists, and it's not. It's a good score though. Coming in number 9 is Donnie Darko's score, scored by Michael Andrews. Yeah, Michael Andrews. This is another very haunting, very grim score, and it's so good. Yes, I know Donnie Darko has a big fan base. It was very underrated when it came out, but this movie just got more of a cult following, and it should, because it's a great film. And with what Michael Kelly did with this movie, Jake Gyllenhaal is fantastic. It is such a brilliant and very smart film. But no one talks about the score. The score really sets the tone and really gives the movie that grim and atmospheric feel. This score, Michael Andrews, what he did with it was so freaking good, and I absolutely love it. It's you go watch it on YouTube, you'll see just how just grim the score is, and it really makes the movie feel like how you feel when you watch Donnie Darko. It's mostly because of the direction and the good performances, but it's also the score. The score really builds to the eeriness and the grimness of Donnie Darko, and yeah, it's a well done score. It's a well composed score. Definitely one of the most underrated ones. Coming in number 8 is young Sherlock Holmes' score. This is composed by Bruce Broughton. Yes, I had it right down. Bruce Broughton. And another very film composer that I don't know much about his work, but I love this score, Young Sherlock Holmes. This begins the whole film. the opening credits of Young Sherlock Holmes, and I love it. This is just such a fun and very whimsical score, and I know a lot of people, when they think of, like, you know, kids films and adventure films, the scores they think of is like Goonies score. That's a good score as well. And, like, of course, Pirates of the Caribbean, the dun 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 dun. That's a good score too. And even the Narnia and Harry Potter's good. The John Williams Harry Potter score is so good. But not a lot of people talk about the Bruce Broughton score with Young Sherlock Holmes. I think this is a damn good score. It really puts me in the mood for some Sherlock Holmes and a good mystery and stuff. It's very uplifting. It's very entertaining. It really gets me in the mood to watch some Sherlock Holmes. And yeah, it's a damn good score and very underrated. Coming number 7 is The Last Starfighter. Yes, The Last Starfighter. This score is composed by Craig Satin, and this is another damn good score. This feels very Star Trek-esque, this score. Feels like I'm going on a really good space opera, epic adventure, and it's really good. Yes, the Star Trek score and Star Wars, way better than The Last Starfighter, but this is a really good and very hidden gem of a score. It really puts you in that, like, very sci-fi kind of mood. You know you're in for a really amazing adventure and stuff, a really cool space adventure, and yeah, again, like, if a score like Star Wars and Star Trek is loved as they are, and they're amazing, and they're way better, I think a score like this should be more known. Maybe it's because the movie's so underrated. A lot of people have never even seen The Last Starfighter. Most people haven't even heard of this movie, so check the film out first, and then listen to the score. The film's underrated, the score's underrated, it's underrated. Coming number 6 is actually a score that came out this year. This is actually my favorite score for 2017 so far, and it's gonna go down as one of the most underrated scores of this year, and that's Wind River. Wind River, the score for Wind River was composed by Nick Cave, and yeah, I'm a big fan of Nick Cave. He does a lot of good music, and this is a great film. I love this film. It's such a great film. It's not the best Taylor Sheridan film like that he's written, but it's still a very good movie. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. It's so freaking good. The score, wow, what Nick Cave did with the score was amazing. It was so haunting. I also consider The Prisoner's score pretty underrated as well, but this score just got to me more. This score just puts me in the most uncomfortable mood, and that's what it was meant to do. Like, this score is meant to make you feel very bleak and very dark and very uncomfortable, and the score just did that perfectly. It is just such a haunting score, but it's a score that you just need to listen to. If you listen to the score right now, you'll instantly feel uncomfortable, and that's when you know you have a great score. Coming number 5 is The Iron Giant. Yes, the film composer for The Iron Giant was Michael Kamen. Michael Kamen composed the score for The Iron Giant. Another very underrated film. This film, like, tanked in the box office again, but it got a cult following like Donnie Darko, and most people love this movie now, which they should, because The Iron Giant is a fantastic film. What Brad Bird did with this movie was amazing, but the score is so good. It feels very 50s, because this movie takes place 57, I think, yeah, during, like, you know, Sputnik and stuff, and yeah, during the Cold War and stuff. This movie is so good, and the score really puts you in the setting, in this 50s setting and stuff. The soundtrack is good too, but the score is so good. The Iron Giant theme song is so goddamn good, and it just makes you feel just such warm inside, and just really gets you excited for the Iron Giant, and yeah, really good score. Coming number 4 is Cliffhanger, composed by Trevor Jones. Yeah, Trevor Jones is another really good film composer. Cliffhanger, this is a very weird choice, because I'm not, like, the biggest fan of this film. It's a good film. It's a fun, stupid, silly 90s film, directed by Rennie Harlin, starring Sylvester Stallone, and it's a ridiculous film. The score for this movie is so good, though. It is really goddamn good. I really like this score. It doesn't always fit well with the tone of the film, because the first score they played in this movie is very, like, light, and it's like a fast-paced action movie. But I love this score. Like, this is a score I can listen to on repeat and stuff. I don't know what it is. It's just so beautifully laid out, the way the orchestra lays out, and it's just such a lovely score. I don't know how to explain it. It's just such a beautiful score, and just definitely one of my favorites, and a score that no one talks about, and they should, because it's so good. Coming number 3 is The Secret of DUM, composed by Jerry Goldsmith. Jerry Goldsmith, everyone knows that I'm a big Jerry Goldsmith fan. Like, he did a lot of Star Trek movies and stuff. He's done a lot of amazing scores. this is one of his best. Like, hands down, this is one of my favorite Jerry Goldsmith scores for The Secret of DUM. Again, Secret of DUM has a lot of great music in the movie. Beautiful animation. Again, another very underrated film. This is a Don Bluth film. Check it out. It is so good. Most of your kids need to watch this movie. The score is so, again, very haunting score. It's a very dark score. It feels like, I feel like the Halloween Tree sort of score. It is just such a weird and bizarre and dark score. It fits perfectly with the plot and with the story of this movie. It just really puts you in this really dark adventure, and this score really adds to the darkness of Secret of DUM, and I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite Jerry Goldsmith scores, which is really saying a lot because he has a huge lineup of amazing scores, but this is actually my favorite. Coming number 2 is Much Ado About Nothing, composed by Patrick Doyle. Yes, this is mostly the beginning, because Much Ado About Nothing doesn't really have a lot of scores in the movie. There's mostly a soundtrack, and there's like a lot of huge music numbers in this movie, a lot of big orchestra numbers, because the whole movie's mostly talking. Because it's based off a Shakespeare play, it's Much Ado About Nothing. Everyone knows that this is one of my favorite films of all time. It's my favorite Shakespeare play. It's my favorite Shakespeare adaptation. I love what Kenneth Branagh did with this film. This score is so underrated, especially this is how the movie opens with the bump 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 bump. It's just so good. You get to see all these characters on the horses riding into this town, all the people preparing for their arrival, and this big, huge score like arrives and stuff. It's so good. This is such a big and grand score. It feels like you're gonna watch a grand Shakespeare movie. Some people probably would think like maybe this belongs more on a Hamlet, because Much Ado About Nothing isn't a big and flashy Shakespeare play. It's not. It's actually a very simple story, and it's very low-key and stuff. But I love this score. I absolutely adore it. I love a lot of good Shakespeare scores. Like Hamlet has a good score. Othello has a good score. Henry V has a good score. This is my favorite. And it's not because it's like my favorite movie, but it just has a great score, and a score that people need to talk about more, and it should have been nominated for Best Score at the Oscars. It is amazing. And my number 1 most underrated film score of all time is The Last Mohicans. Yes, The Last Mohicans. This score was composed by Trevor Jones and Randy Elderman. This, everyone knows, back years ago when I did my top 10 favorite movie scores of all time, my 3 favorite scores is the Psycho one, composed by Bernard Herrmann, and Star Wars, John Williams, obviously, and this one, the Randy Elderman one, the Trevor Jones one, Last of the Mohicans. This was a tie for, 3-way tie for my number 1 favorite score. I love the score. It's amazing. It's brilliant. It's my favorite score of all time with Star Wars and Psycho. I think it's on that same pedestal as Star Wars and Psycho for scores, not for film. For film itself, it's still amazing. It's Michael Mann's best movie, in my opinion, one of my favorite Daniel Day-Lewis performances. It's a great period piece movie. It's an amazing story. Very epic film. The score is amazing, though. It is such a great score. Like, it's a very native score because it takes place like during the native times, and people were raiding the native villages, and the Last of the Mohicans is one of the last native tribes. This score is just so damn epic, especially when it plays at the ending, when the Mohicans are attacking and stuff, trying to get the girl back and the sister, and then the chief loses his son, and this score is just playing, just, you know, like, you feel like you're in the action with these characters, and it's such an amazing score. And then the score just like calms down and goes into a more lighter, more calmer feel, and that's how the movie ends, in a more calmer feel. The score just lays the story out, it lays the tone and atmosphere out. It just lays the tone and atmosphere out. It just lays the tone and the atmosphere out just so brilliantly. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite score of all time. Again with Star Wars and Psycho. And I still think it's the most underrated score ever. No one talks about this score, and they should, because it's brilliant. So that's my top 10 most underrated movie scores of all time. So in the comment section below, please tell me, what are your top 10 favorite or most underrated movie scores of all times? Like, what are scores that no one talks about, the scores that you listen to and just people don't appreciate as much, and you think it's so good? Yes, give me your top 10s. What do you think are the most underrated scores of all time? Give me your thoughts and opinions. Comment below. Let me know. And as always, if you like this video, please like, subscribe to this channel, and join the dark side.